Association for Progressive Communications. If this name's ringing a bell, it's likely because it was referred to multiple times in the UN Broadband Commission's report on cyber violence. You know, the report that was so dreadfully awful and embarrassing that they ended up having to pull it. There's no need to worry though. Even without the report, APC continues to work hard to make sure the world understands the threat of cyber violence. Who is behind Take Back the Tech? Take Back the Tech is initiated by the Association for Progressive Communications Women's Rights Program, both a program within APC and a network of women throughout the world committed to using technology for women's empowerment. We promote gender equality in the design, implementation, access, and use of information and communication technologies, and in the policy decisions and frameworks that regulate them. Since the campaign began in 2006, it has been taken up, adapted, and owned by individuals, groups, networks, and organizations in countries such as blah blah blah. The most recent adapter of this campaign appears to be the United Nations created Internet Governance Forum, or to be more precise, the Best Practice Forum, a group under the IGF. From Take Back the Tech's front page, urgent action to stop online violence. Contribute to IGF Best Practice Forum report on online violence against women, 9th October at 2 p.m. GMT. We are working with the Best Practice Forum to develop a comprehensive report on online violence against women, which will be presented at the Internet Governance Forum 2015 as a best practice guideline, and we want your input. This is also elaborated on the Head Talker campaign they ran. We are the Best Practice Forum, a group under the Internet Governance Forum, and we are currently building a report on the violence against women online. If you'll excuse my interruption, I had a little look at their draft of this report. If you search cyber violence, guess what shows up in their footnotes 3 times? Everything I read as well was quite reminiscent of the UN Broadband Commission's report. Anyway, back to the campaign's description. Seeking diverse answers from the online sphere, we will incorporate all of your answers of how this violence affects us all as individuals and as a society at large. So the idea was, people would sign up for this and then share their tweet on the 9th. And the tweet said, "What impact does online violence have on women and girls? Use the hashtag TakeBackTheTech to contribute examples to IGF 2015. You know, they've nailed it. That was the issue with the UN Broadband Commission's report. They didn't use the best possible source. Random people on Twitter using a hashtag. I know it may be hard to believe, but a whole bunch of people are not too fond of these guys or the idea of cyber violence. So, unsurprisingly, their little tweet chat was crashed. And in response, APC posted a call to arms against these invaders. Take action for Take Back the Tech and imagine a feminist internet. Today, Friday the 9th of October 2015, misogynists, trolls, and a variety of people who associate with the Gamergate hashtag decided to occupy and corrupt the Take Back the Tech and Imagine a Feminist Internet hashtags by posting thousands of anti-feminist and misogynistic tweets and memes. This attack is the response to a tweet chat organized by the Internet Governance Forum, Best Practice Forum on countering online violence and abuse to discuss the impact of such violence. The volunteer who is organizing the tweet chat also received an email in her personal inbox declaring the launch of the attack to quote-unquote destroy the campaign. This online attack against feminist activism online is deliberate, planned and coordinated, and it's only one example of the attack that feminists face online. Imagine actually being this mad that someone shitposted on the internet with a hashtag when you didn't want them to. I think these guys are just addicted to Twitter and it's really fucked them up. Somebody quick, call the police. My hashtag's been occupied and they're corrupting it as we speak. It might seem hard to believe, but they actually managed to end this call to action in a way that is more pathetic than its introduction. Today's cyber attack by the trolls emphasized that more than ever, feminists and activists need to respond swiftly to online violence. Yes, you heard that correctly. Shitposting is violence. And I guess if that shows them more than ever that they need to respond swiftly, it must be some of the worst violence they've ever seen. Our organizations, movements, and allies need to support the digital security of women's rights defenders online. More than ever, we need to take back the tech and imagine a feminist internet. As individual activists and members of various social justice activists, we call on you to do the following. Report abusive accounts to Twitter. Fine. Reclaim the Take Back the Tech and Imagine a Feminist Internet hashtags. Good luck, but fine. If you feel so inclined, create alternative accounts to push back against the trolls. Hang on a sec on that one. I'd say fine, but I'd also say if you're making a sock puppet to bother people with, you are a troll, which I don't really care about, but I'm surprised these people are advocating it. Let's make the internet a nicer place. Option 3. Create a sock puppet to fight with people on. Doesn't quite fit, does it? Or maybe it does if you remember the earlier post. It's not about making the internet a better place. It's about making it safer for the right people. And their idea of safety is quite interesting. I took a good look at the Take Back the Tech website, and the hate speech section reads like something I would write to take the piss. Hate speech includes written, spoken, or visual discrimination, harassment, threats, or violence against a person or group on the basis of their gender, disability, sexual orientation, race, etc. Any speech that trivializes, glorifies, or incites violence against women is hate speech, just as speech that trivializes the Holocaust is anti-Semitic, and speech that glorifies attacks on people because of their race is racist. Incitement to violence. Okay, but trivializing violence against women, would that include telling a joke? People say some video games glorify violence against women. Should they count as hate speech? Online as elsewhere, we all have a right to freedom of expression, and some people hold pretty offensive views about women. Hate speech is not free speech, however, as freedom of expression does not trump freedom from violence. If speech is expressed in a particularly aggressive, inflammatory, and that's important, it doesn't have to be all three of these things, it could just be inflammatory or aggressive. If speech is expressed in a particularly aggressive, inflammatory, or sustained manner, then it may be considered hate speech. If we just went on the way they're presenting it, how many of my videos do you think would be considered hate speech or cyber violence? Quite a few, I'd like to think. I'm going to skip ahead to the PDF because it restates some of the things on the webpage but with more detail. Your right to freedom of expression. Article 19, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media, regardless of frontiers. That actually sounds pretty good to me. I don't know what I was worried about. Wait, there's more. A great deal. Is that a metric or imperial great deal? Of hate speech is directed at women journalists, bloggers, and activists simply because they are women. When a woman speaks up online, some people use hate speech to try to silence her or drive her out of a particular digital space. When the writer is a woman of color and/or LGBTQI, she will often face hate speech attacking her gender, race or ethnicity, and sexuality. Women of all backgrounds have a right to use their voices and to express themselves however they want. Hate speech is a violation of this right. Many of the same people committing such violence are very vocal about their own right to free speech, ignoring how their attacks restrict the free speech of women. Hate speech is not free speech, and anyone working to promote freedom of expression online should be concerned about how hate speech affects this right for women. Where do you start on this? The first question that comes to my mind is, can women engage in hate speech? If they can, does that mean women can't say some things because it might stop women from saying some things? And regardless of that, doesn't stamping whatever you would call hate speech out restrict women's right to receive ideas and information if they so wish? Because based on what they quoted at the beginning, you'd think they believed that was a right too. In trying to look like they are defending women in particular, they are actually targeting women to deny them a right. Sounds pretty misogynistic to me. I am glad to not have my ears forcefully covered, and I think women should have that option too. So there is one more bit I want to show you. There's quite a lot more on this Take Back the Tech site, but it all gets quite samey. This is the big one. This is why you don't want cyber violence to be a thing. Your right to freedom from violence. United Nations Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. States should condemn violence against women and should not invoke any custom, tradition, or religious consideration to avoid their obligations with respect to its elimination. States should pursue, by all appropriate means and without delay, a policy of eliminating violence against women. This includes any act of gender-based violence that results in, or is likely to result in, physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence. Parties shall take the necessary legislative and other measures to promote and protect the right for everyone, particularly women, to live free from violence in both the public and the private sphere. Before I read this last paragraph, I want you to just take a moment. Try to remember some examples of things that have been called cyber violence or even just violence. Try to remember everything that could possibly count as hate speech. Alright then. Here we go. Hate speech is a form of violence, and states have a duty to eliminate such violence. The United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights addresses hate speech in Article 20, but only when it advocates national, racial, or religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence. There is a movement underway, however, to address gender-based hate speech, and some online platforms include gender in their policies against hate speech. It does chill out a bit, doesn't it? It ends up talking about just social media policies, which could still be a huge problem if they drink the Kool-Aid. But don't forget what they consider to be hate speech, what they consider to be violence, and that they push the idea of states having a duty to stamp it out. My worry is not these guys finishing that report, getting the UN to suck it up, and then somehow pressure states into restricting everyone's speech. No. My worry is that one of these times they're going to get it right, get the presentation slick, get the right faces attached, all the sympathetic media push it, and the average person agrees. This is a good idea. I want the government to fix this problem, and in the meantime, I don't want any social media I use to tolerate this hate speech, this cyber violence, whatever that ends up meaning. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions. Now just a brief note about something lighter. Holy crap. You guys bought 92 t-shirts. The design's pretty good, right? But there was a recurring complaint or disappointment. People wanted more t-shirt colours, and I goofed on that. So I'm running a 10-day campaign for the US and EU with just tons of colour options. And women's fitted tees this time too. Links in the description if you are interested.